More Americans than ever before are seriously considering living abroad. The latest Harris poll says the number is at 4 and 10 across all age groups, with it being even higher among the younger age cohorts. I can certainly relate. My name's Karina. I've lived abroad on a few different occasions, studying and working, and I'm going to take the leap again in just about 2 months. And today, I'd like to share 5 tips to consider in your planning process when you're looking at the prospect of jumping ship from the United States and even all of North America. So the first one is consider the affinity that you have for the part of the world that you're considering going to. Now, cost of living considerations are cited as a major, if not the major consideration in 2025, political considerations here in the US as well. But there was a lot in the Harris poll of sightings of this soaring cost of living in the United States. Now, that is not an only United States problem. So while I consider it to be a wonderful experience to live in another country, what I think really sustains people and they have a great experience is that they have an appreciation for the particular culture that they're moving to and a curiosity to learn more. That can span all facets, right? That could be the art, the nature, dancing, music. It goes on and on. If you have that, your experience will be so enriched and it helps you push beyond the inevitable hassles and bureaucracies and unexpected contingencies. So it's a big world and there's a lot of continents to consider, but that's really something to think about because there isn't another place that's quite as comfortable as home. And so there are other factors that make up for that and make your experience into an enriching adventure. The second consideration is it's important to plan. Nobody does this without excruciating planning. It's much more complex than moving to another state within the US. And as much as you plan, be prepared to pivot. So let me explain. In terms of getting all the information required, I am going to do some follow-up videos about the different details with banking, with visas, with keeping your mail flowing at home. There is quite a list, and some of it applies wherever you go. And of course, there's lots of information online about this, both in online sources that you can research and keep up to date, and from YouTubers that are giving you the lowdown on the different visa requirements and changes. Yeah, do that planning and think about what you're willing to execute and how much time you have and the expense involved. But having said that, you certainly can expect to save from 30% to 50% living in a lot of different countries outside of the United States, whether it's even something as simple as not driving around a car. At the same time, for all the planning that you do, the plans do not go as you can always project, as projected. I've recently moved from one state in the US to another. Many things were just really exactly what I could expect, if not easier than it was in my home state. Living abroad is entirely different. Things can change. Pandemics happen. Visa requirements change. Geopolitical situations change. And so be prepared to pivot. Have a plan B. Within that, having a plan B, the third tip is you can give this a trial run. Nothing in this world is forever, as much as this is indeed a big leap to take to not only go on a trip, an extended holiday vacation, but to make it your base of operations, whether you're working from a place, running your own business that from there, or retiring to a place. But having said that, it's really valuable to go and spend some time in some of the countries and parts of the world that you're most interested in. You can put your stuff in storage. You can sublet your place if you rent or lease out a place that you own. You can keep your car with a family member. I did that myself the last time I went abroad. Boy, I was really happy that that family member offered, because after the pandemic, the price of cars skyrocketed, and some things are skyrocketing again these days. Now, in terms of how you know if you have an affinity for a place, let me tell you a little story. When I was in my 20s, I decided that I wanted to study Brazil, and I worked for a nonprofit. I was invited to go live with some of my coworkers. I did speak Spanish and was learning Portuguese, and I was really looking forward to being in Brazil. Before I came, I was listening to the music, and back in the day, I studied Portuguese using flashcards on the bus. But when nothing prepared me for what I experienced when I arrived. I woke up my first morning in the country. I was in the middle of Sao Paulo, this city of well over 20 million. And I looked outside the window of the bedroom I was in, and I see these kind of grimy buildings. I mean, nothing like what I'd seen at home. And it wasn't the ghetto part of the city. This is how the city is. There's pollution and everything's really crowded. But seeing that, I take a deep breath, and all I thought was, God, I'm in Brazil. I've arrived. I felt like I belonged there. And that continued for many years, and is one of the places that I'm considering moving to permanently. It is not something that I felt exactly in other places that I've lived, although some I felt perfectly welcome. Others was kind of a harder landing, and you'll know. Some places the language is so different that you're going to have a extremely difficult time. I had that situation in Greece when I took a little extended solo trip after a business trip. Oh my gosh, that's another story, that expression. It's all Greek to me. Others, of course, there isn't too much of a barrier in learning, which gets me to the fourth tip. If you're going somewhere where the language is somewhat accessible, a Romance language, a European-based language, I really have seen among expats and travelers that those that make an effort to communicate even basic in the native language have such an easier time. There's less fear factor. They're received in a different way. It's not that places don't speak English. Americans are not the only ones that tend to rest on their English. I've seen it with other folks from the UK and Canada. I think there are certain things that as a US citizen, you really do get props for when you make that extra effort. There are various impressions of us from abroad, and it's really terrific to be able to just break beyond that. And also, if you start to just bring a device and study up beforehand, so you have some words already, you can continue to learn as you travel. When I was studying in Spain years ago, that's how I got to learn Spanish, even though I studied it like crazy in college, and it took a lot of repetition. It's not hard, but it takes more repetition than you can imagine. But then later on, I met some Dutch guys and traveled with them to some rather adventurous parts of Europe at that time. Eastern Europe and Istanbul was adventurous. And I was so impressed with the way that even we're in a place like Bulgaria or Turkey, they had their little book. At the time we used books, and they would talk to the people. It's just what continental Europeans are quite well known for that. And there's no reason why we can't do it too, especially with all of the fantastic programs and apps that we have to help us. We can even practice with ChatGPT. Highly recommended. And given all of this, The fifth tip that I have is simply to embrace the adventure. While you can feel like there's kind of a push from home that things are not what they were before, which I certainly agree, and you feel like you just want to have some ease and comfort, the reality is, yeah, some things are going to be more comfortable. Some things you're going to be able to afford and have some really friendly and warm cultures. On the other hand, you're going to have a much more wonderful time if you embrace this as an epic journey of discovery of both yourself and the world. My philosophy is that life is a epic adventure, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't lived abroad, because I had plenty of money to do so. To the contrary, it really is an extremely cost-effective choice. But remember, you are on a journey. Keep a notebook, to record your thoughts with your recording device, and you can have them transcribed in so many more rapid ways. Or just appreciate the present moment. I think of a quote by the great Tolstoy. He says, "Every work of literature begins in one of two ways. A man, human, takes a journey, or a stranger comes to visit." So take your journey, make an epic adventure, plan, pivot, and enjoy. I'm Karina, and check out my next video for more concrete tips, things that can really help ensure that things go smoothly.